fucking monkey! Two monkeys in love! Two monkeys in love!
I love this shit, man. They're two monkeys and they're in love. So let's have a look at the history of animals in entertainment. Okay, I'm gonna have to be a bit less broad than that. Wild animals have been used for entertainment and performances dating all the way back to ancient Rome in the Colosseums, and evidence of bullfighting exists dating all the way back to 711 AD. You won't find animal fighting as mainstream nowadays. The closest to the way we picture wild animal entertainment now, with them acting more human-like and doing impressive tricks and stunts, most closely is believed to date back to 1831. In German circus shows. It's believed with evidence that French performer Henri Martin was the first to bring the concept of wild animals to circus shows, where it was advertised that he entered a cage with a tiger on. The idea of this was later popularized even more so, with American circus performances being quickly followed on by Isaac A. Van Amberg, who is supposedly the first performer to do the famous trick of sticking his head into a lion's mouth. Circus animal shows didn't reach their mass peak in popularity, however, until 1919, when a small little indie circus studio known as Ringling Bros and Barnum and Bailey came along, and pioneered by the one and only P.T. Barnum. That's like that one film with Zac Efron and Hugh Jackman in it, the Great Show guy! With a show they performed known as The Greatest Show on Earth. It featured all you could ever want from a circus, like clowns, ooh, and people swinging from hoops, and wild animals performing. The animals like tigers, camels and elephants being forced to act out performances, such as elephants having to perform headstands, or dance around and balance on small podiums, which can be seen here in this video from 2015? Meanwhile, behind the scenes, to train these animals, tools such as ropes and electric prod sticks are used to discipline the animals. Oh, and whilst moving these animals around, they would be chained up and put in train cars with little to no space and stuck in these for upwards of 100 hours straight. Nowadays, however, the Greatest Show on Earth no longer performs with any wild animals, after years of intense scrutiny from animal rights activists and former workers protesting. The last animal show taking place on May 21st, 2017. Well, that was a bummer. Let's take our minds off things for a moment and let's take a breather. PG tips. If you live in the UK, which you do, you'll have most certainly seen this funny old plush monkey, creatively named Monkey, which initially was used to advertise the now defunct TV station ITV Digital throughout the early 2000s, alongside actor Johnny Vegas. Later, the character was reused to advertise for PG Tips as a nostalgic throwback to their longest and previously most successful ad campaign known as the T-Chimps. First airing back in the 1960s up into the 80s, the advert showcased real-life monkeys pretending to act as humans. Oh no. There have been a fair few amount of studies conducted on the behaviour of monkeys isolated from the wild and raised around humans, be it for either performance or even some examples of apes being raised as humans. Frequently for animals in these situations, they are deliberately separated from their parents at birth in order for them to become naturally comfortable in human situations. These animals are usually raised either by breeding from animals already in captivity or by taking them from the wild or from poachers. Such is the example with one of the chimp actors known as Choppers, who was featured in the PG Tips adverts as the character Ada. She was brought into Twycross Zoo after a British couple had rescued her in Liberia from poachers, and she was later raised in the zoo until being used by PG Tips for their advertisements. After the advertising campaign ended, she was returned back to the Twycross Zoo, where it was noted that she was known to prefer solitude, often shunning other apes in favour of human company. Animals which are raised this way are naturally predisposed to only know socialization through humans, and find issues communicating with animals in their species. This can be seen with the example of the chimpanzee known as Lucy. As an experiment conducted in the 1960s, Lucy was raised as a baby to be treated like a human being, and being taught sign language to communicate. As she grew up, she had become a lot more difficult to look after, as by the age of 12, chimps in the wild are known to start to gain independence from their parents and set off into nature, with female chimps usually having their first births around the age of 13. Lucy at this age had only one experience being exposed to a male chimpanzee, as she had begun showing signs of desiring sex by pleasuring herself with a vacuum cleaner. so she was introduced to a male chimpanzee in which she was frightened due to her upbringing. As she was getting too much for her caretakers Maurice and Jane to look after, they both looked into rehabilitation for her. However, due to her age and how she was raised, it was deemed impossible to rehabilitate her back into living as a chimpanzee via usual methods. Eventually, she was moved from the US into a rehabilitation centre in Gambia, alongside other chimpanzees who had issues with being rehabilitated, being looked after by caretaker Janice Carter. It's noted that during Lucy's time at the rehabilitation centre, she often showed multiple signs of depression, including expressing the word for hurt in sign language. After years of rehabilitation with assistance from Janice, Lucy was eventually introduced back into the wild, with this photo being taken of Janice and Lucy embracing as she left with a group of other chimpanzees back into the wild. Around a year later, Janice returned to the same rainforest she left Lucy at, but this time all that was found was Lucy's skeleton, with bones scattered all around in different places, her skull not attached to her head, her hands in separate places. It's unknown to this day how Lucy passed. So what lesson can we learn from all of this? Don't use wild animals for entertainment. This is but just one small subject of the animal cruelty that goes hidden in the making of entertainment, but we still see things around today which is clear mistreatment of animals. Even childhood classic films such as Garfield 2 contain a shot of a real-life dog falling over for comedic effect. And when you see things like this, it's worth questioning what went on behind the scenes for even this short 2-second clip. How many times did this have to be reshot? How were the animals treated in the making of this film? And especially nowadays when we have the technology to easily recreate a scene like this with CGI, why must we affect a real animal's life for our own entertainment? I had reached out to the source of this image. After putting it through a reverse image search, I was able to trace it back to a website known as Kimball Stock, which features a whole host of stock photos ranging from cars to animals, with a section of wild photography which also features some incredible photos of animals undisturbed and uninterrupted in nature, whilst also featuring images of apes dressed up in mock human situations, such as this one. A photo captioned "A humorous shot of Eddie, prisoner of love," which, seeing after all of this research, just kind of hit something in me. I'd reached out via email and received confirmation of the photographer for these photos in a response. Yes, the photographer is Ron Kimball, who owns the website Kimball Stock. Unfortunately, I didn't receive any correspondence in regards to how the shoot was taken, and at least for this situation, I must state that there is absolutely zero evidence of any mistreatment or abuse of the animals in either of these photos. But are these monkeys truly in love? My best guess is no.